All right. A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, which is on business model canvas. I'm Shanti. I shall be facilitating this session for you for the next 1 hour. And I hope you will enjoy this journey as much as I have enjoyed putting this together for you all. Right? For those of you who are still relatively new to me, a little bit about myself. I'm basically a full-time professional consultant, coach, and facilitator. And I'm very passionate about certain topic areas or subject areas, specifically on strategic planning, entrepreneurship, and also in terms of strategic marketing. For many people who have known me from my earlier days in education, I've got some friends here from the education industry that I was in before. I love to teach marketing for almost 25 years of my life. I love teaching marketing to all different levels and so on. And now I try to do that, to take that into organizations and look at how they can apply some of those concepts. So as I'm talking to you all today, I'm bringing together a lot of, sorry to use Malay word, Kesah Benar, for those of you not familiar with Malay words, because I always believe that works better. Plus, at the same time, I would be sharing with you some of the successful case studies of companies that has applied this concept of business model canvas, all right, for your some of your learning takeaways. All right, and I'm also a professional coach where I support journeys, my client journeys on their professional and personal development. Right, so that's a little bit about myself, just to buy time, and a bit of housekeeping announcement that I would be, as my session has started, I would appreciate your kind cooperation in putting your speaker on mute so that there is no background disturbances and so on. And I'm happy, if you have a question to ask, then unmute and ask me a question, and I'll be happy to answer that. And largely, I'm looking at us interacting using the chat box, which most of you are familiar with, and also for official announcement that this session is actually being recorded as part of the requirement for me to do this program, right? And also, I must say that a lot of the contents that I'm presenting today are taken from external sources. And if I, did not mention specifically from where, but I'm here to announce that yes, I've taken them from some copyrighted sources and so on. But I feel safe because I know that I'm using it here for educational purposes only. Right. Now, and what are we going to do the next 50 minutes that we have remaining with the, with all those things coming in slowly? Number one, I'm hoping that by 9 o'clock, you would go away with a better understanding, a better knowledge about what business model canvas is all about. And most importantly, the interesting features that comes from this model. And number two is for you to be able to identify, all right, the 9 building blocks of business model canvas. For your information, I'll be using the short term to make it easier for me. All right, so BMC now onwards will be business model canvas, right? And based on that understanding of the 9 blocks and how it can be applied, I'm hoping that you would go away looking at how, to some extent, all right, this tool that you are here to, to have this journey of learning with me would be useful in your own personal business that you're running now. Now, I would like to start off by having a quick poll because it's good to know the base knowledge that I'm dealing with. So, so could you, I'll give you about 40 seconds to answer this question. Very simple question. All right, how would you rate your current level of knowledge on business model canvas? Right, number 3, all right, please give yourself a 3 if you are very familiar with it and you are aware of the components that comes in that model. Average, if you say, I think I know, but it's been a long time since I touched base on it. And 1 would be when you say, I've heard of it, but I know very little on it. And finally, those who saying, this is the first time I'm coming across this model, right? So I'm going to launch the poll. All right, and there's another question on whether you have used this business model canvas before. All right, so please take a couple of seconds, the fastest that you can, in answering this poll. Are you all able to view it? Yeah, okay. Okay, it's coming in. All right, I've got 18 people answered. Thank you. Another 10 to go. It's a few more. And I would be ending in 3, 2, 1. That's it. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that quick poll. Right, so I would like to share with you the results. Are you all able to see the results?
Yep.
Can anyone let me know if you can see the results?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, okay. So from what I can see here is about 46% of you say somewhat familiar, and they have about 38% of them who said that, no, this is something new to me, all right? And with regards to the question on whether they've used it, 63% of them said no. All right, so which means, guys, I would try to match the learning needs of both. All right, for those of you who are first time, welcome. All right, and this process of getting to know business model canvas, and for those who are average, those who already know, it's good to know that you're here for a quick revisit, for a quick refresher, and hopefully with this refresher, all right, you are going to use the next couple of days that we still have under this MCO period to go back to the drawing board for your organization to look at how, all right, this simple yet so powerful tool can be used to support your development of your strategy. Because as you all would agree with me that the current situation we are in, all of us, including myself, we have to take a couple of steps behind and look at the big picture in terms of the situation that we are faced with. All right. So when we want to take these two steps behind and relook at the entire horizon that we are faced with in terms of where should we be going, in making sure we still, able to generate the kind of revenue that we need to bring in for the company and so on. So that's where I think it's going to be useful to refresh for those of you familiar. So thank you very much for that. And I am going to go back to continuing with the session just now. All right. So just please confirm with me that you can see my slides now.
Yep, clear.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So I love storytelling, by the way. All right. So before I start, I would like to take you back to a little bit about times in the 80s. If you remember, we were traveling to work, and I started my work in 89, all right, in the smack of KL City, and it was a fantastic night. I wouldn't say fantastic; it's a nightmare. All right, looking at how do I go to work in terms of the time. What time should I leave? Because everything was so unpredictable. When the jam will be there, what time will the jam will be there, or which road the jam will be there. It was so unpredictable. Right, that is the 80s. But today, if you look at it, all we have to do is just take our phone, which I wanted to show you. Where's my phone? Yeah, I'm timing it. Yep, we just have to do is take our phone and key in the address and ways, and there we have, a simple, in one small gadget that we have, it tells us the entire journey, all right, in terms of which are the routes we have been taking to reach the destination that we want to go. Now, similarly, I would say why, when the need for a topic to be selected came about, in doing this session, I thought go back to something that is frame-based, model-based, because because, I'm very much into planning, and strategic planning was my core area in the past. I find that all these frames, they just help us to make all the complicated things that we are faced with simplified. All right. So that's why, I decided to choose on this, because with the COVID-19 pandemic that we were facing, And I was reading a lot of articles that came from McKinsey and a lot of the big, companies and so on. And one key point that they kept stressing is re-look at your business model. All right, and they feel that if you do that, it will help you uh, to to map out, your strategies. Because as you all know, definitely we need to re-strategize based on the current situation that we're facing and so on. All right. So with that in mind, uh, why model? All right. Let's look at what can we know a little bit more about this model this morning on business model canvas. All right. A little bit of introduction. I was also pretty surprised when I was putting these slides together that this model was actually created by a guy by the name of Alexander when he was 31 years old. Right. And he is 46 now. So must be a genius, right? And you must thank him because at that young age, he decided to give something of value to the world. Why I said give something of value? Because after this session, when you Google business model canvas, the number of videos, the number of reading materials, the number of templates, free templates, and so on, created by this guy, through his company, as you can see there. All right, I would definitely recommend you to go to this website, strategizer.com, where there are tons and tons of videos and models and frameworks, right? Because my session with you is only about 50 minutes, plus minus the introduction and the final finale part of closing and so on. That 50 minutes, it's for me is just a teaser. All right, it's like watching a movie and having a preview and say I'm going to watch this. All right, I'm definitely coming for this movie and so on. So please look into his website. And also I've shown here the book that he has written on business model generation. I managed to download this ebook. uh, it's about 188 pages, but it was really worth it because it gives you. So please do that, right? So that whatever you are doing after this session is going to be more of use to you and so on. All right. So why he came out with this model is, as you can see in my slides, uh, we have a choice of developing a business plan, a typical business plan. All right. And as you all know, a business plan can be a 5-pager document, a 12-pager document, or even an 80-pager document, which has got the full details of everything. All right. I'm not going to stand here and say that do away with business plan. I think for when you are looking for financing with the banks and looking for some funding, definitely the document will be required. But what we are looking at here is how can we start thinking about our plan, all right? Especially if you're new or renewing your business, all right, due to the current circumstances and so on, all right? You're looking at something that is simple or something that, that gives you that quick overview, all right? So he came out with that as a framework that can be used by entrepreneurs and business owners versus writing pages after pages with vision and mission and goals and the objectives. And again, I'm not saying don't do that, but that for me is something that you do at step 2. Step 1 is the big picture. All right, the big picture. All right, because the ability to picture your future is becoming a critical success factor in the world that we are in now. All right, and most of the time when I'm talking to my clients, even during training programs, when I talk to my participants, I always say that a critical skill today is the cognitive thinking skills. All right, the ability to to think through things and to visualize things. Because if you can't visualize, how how are you going to be there? Because you can't even see yourself. And yesterday we had a session with Anita, all right, and it was wonderful, to look at how when we want something, we got to take ourselves inside there and look at what it takes in order to be there in reality. All right. So it is something that is a simplified version that can be a prelude to something bigger, something more detailed that you need to do in looking at the future of your organization. All right. And now we're looking at what is this model, that was created by Alexander. All right. He came out with a one-pager thing as a framework, as a basic framework that looks at 9 elements. All right. I will simplify it for you in this particular slide that I'm showing you now, where what he says is basically you need to look at the three C's. All right, as you can see, I have the 1C here and 2C here and the 3C down here. Now, the first C, which all of you would agree with me, is about your customer, because you are here for the customer. I mean, why do we, provide all the services that we provide? Why do we come up with the products that we come up with? Is for a particular customer. So the first thing that we need to look at in developing this or applying this business model canvas is to look at your customer segments. Who are you going to go for? All right. And looking at, of course, the value proposition in terms of what is it that you're going to give it to them or offer to them, all right, in terms of the benefits, the bundles that you're going to put together. And you're looking at, in order to take these benefits to them, what channel can I use? And today, with the pandemic that we are facing, do you all agree? All of us have taken two steps behind to re-look at the channels. We have started looking at now a lot of channels which were playing a minor role before, especially using social media or all the digital medias that's available. For some, it was more of a secondary, but now it has become a primary. So the channel is how we reach the customer and how do we build the relationship with the customer. So the C there is the three C's, the customer segment, the channel that you're going to use to reach the customer, and the customer relationship. How do you do that, and so on. I'm going to go deeper into this, right, shortly, but just to give you the big picture now. All right, and the second C on the left, as you can see there, is we're looking at the company itself. The company in terms of very important for the company to decide, in order for me to provide that value proposition for the customer, all right, that particular customer that I've decided to go for, may it be students or may it be, we're providing financial services, right? You're looking at who am I going to go for? I'm going to go for a young married couple, or I'm going to go for people who have got young children, who need to buy policies, right, to make sure that the children's education is prepared for, and so on, right? So you need to look at what are the key activities that you need to do, what are the key resources that you require, and what are the key partners? Who are the key partners you're going to work with? All right, so that's the second C. And at the bottom, you can see is that I'm looking at the commercial aspects of it. That means this model looks at the customer that you're going to serve, the activities that you're going to do to serve that customer, and you're going to look at what are the outcomes of this in terms of, in serving this customer with the value proposition that I've come up with, what will my revenue stream be like? All right, where would the income be coming in? And in terms of the operations, right, where the costs are going to be incurred. All right, so going back to what I have in the earlier slide, as you can see here, right, they have put together, all right, this whole thing. And this is where I like to go back to the earlier slide again. Why is to tell you that, can you imagine in one page, you have the opportunity to look at, or to, I would say, to develop the roadmaps, all right, because it's the first step before you develop the full-fledged business plan. You have in one page the ability to develop your roadmap, and that roadmap, for me, I think it's so powerful. This 31-year-old guy, when he developed it, he must have, of course, nothing new. Frankly, you can sit and say, yeah, Shanti, is nothing new, yes, but what he has done is to simplify things for us and say that put this all in one page, and in the organization, what you can do is you can print out an empty version, put it up. If you have a visual board, I know some of the companies that I've worked with, they practice having a visual board, and in that visual board, they would print out this business canvas model, and then get all these post-it notes to facilitate a very interesting discussion in terms of, can we re-look at our customer segment? Can we re-look at the way in which we have been developing relationship with our clients? Can we re-look at the channels that we have been using, or perhaps overlooked, we didn't use it, all right, for some reason in our hecticness, the oversight perhaps, all right, and maybe in terms of value proposition, because our value proposition has become so similar to the propositions by the competitor. All right. So why am I showing you this is because as an organization, if you have 5 people as part of your senior managers, you know, one of the things you could do after this session is you can download this template so easily, as I mentioned, they're so readily available I mean, Google and so on. Send out to your senior managers, let them fill up on their own, let them spend 1 day, 2 days conceptualizing what their personal thoughts are in terms of where the organization should be heading in terms of dealing with customers, and where the organization should be heading in terms of activities that they are running, or in terms of the resources, right? And finally, so you could do it, you know, as a facilitative tool to do a brainstorming session with your senior management team. All right, and there are many more possible applications. So I'm going to stop here, and sorry, before I go to the next one. So as I was mentioning, so one thing good about this model is it looks at the 3 C's, right? It sort of simplifies into 3: the back end, the front end, the middle, which is your what is it that you're offering, and the back end. All right, and to go one step further, what was also further made interesting by what do you call him, all right, by Alexander, is that he has put together the customer part of it, the company part of it, and the commercial part of it into 3 criteria. That means you're saying that when you are going to the market to your customer, all right, the key factor here is to look at, is it desirable? All right, that means what you have cooked, or what you have created, what you have designed, what you have put together, all right, are they really something that is desired by the customer? Because the point being made here is, if it's not desirable, it's not going to be viable. That means if it's not something that people find that, that fulfills a need or a requirement, or a problem that they are facing and so on, right? So the desirability, so we have to keep looking at, this is where I keep telling a lot of people that I work with in developing in this business model canvas, don't shop sendiri, all right? It's because the minute you shop sendiri, you find it desirable, yes, you find it wanting, you find it that is something that the market needs or the customer needs, but unfortunately, it's not being tested. So, so please remember, if you're ever using this as a simple framework to do a bit of brainstorming among your management team, or even yourself, if you are the boss, you are the one who's running the company, all right, being a sole proprietor, all right, keep looking at the desirability aspects, whether is this something that the customer will find desirable. You see, when Uber came out, we all just jumped and went for it, because what they gave us was a solution that we desired. All right, where Airbnb came in, I found that when I went to visit my son, I spent 90 ringgit, it is like never before I've traveled and got a nice, comfortable room for 90 ringgit. So it was, so the Airbnb solution was something that was so desirable that it wasn't slow, it just skyrocketed in terms of the market take up for it and so on. So the key criteria always is, when you are developing your strategies, right, since I'm looking at how to use business model canvas for strategizing, right, it's very important to look at the desirability aspects of it, the feasibility aspects of it, and the viability aspects. All right. So before going further, I'm not going to do a poll here, but I just need you to do me one favor. Based on whatever you have heard so far, what do you feel is the 2 or 3 interesting feature about this business model canvas? Now, please type your answer in the chat box, but guys, don't press enter yet. Otherwise, when you press enter, somebody will look at your answer, and so wait for my instruction to press the enter. All right, so start typing in from whatever you have seen so far or heard so far about this business model canvas. What do you find as being some interesting feature of this model? going to start checking your chats. Don't press enter yet, yeah? All right, ready? Please press enter now. I would love to see. All right, holistic, desirable, bird's eye view, one pager, roadmap. Very interesting, good view. Overview of the roadmap, ability to look at the big picture, the three C's, the three lenses and how they're connected. Thank you. All right, thank you guys for the some of the features that you've identified. Now, so specifically, I would like to continue. Right. So when you look at this model, right, which is basically put into three frame of the center being the value proposition that you're going to take to the customer, supported by the operations that you have and so on. All right. What I have sort of put together here is some of what I feel that are interesting features of this business model canvas. Right, and I think some of this was also highlighted by y'all, so I'm going to do it quite fast, being mindful of time, right? So I think y'all would agree, number one, it's extremely simple. You don't see any complicated words being used there. Y'all agree? Customer segment, customer relationship, channels, revenue streams, and you're looking at key activities, key resources, so it's so simple. Anybody, even if you have staffs, if you want to do this not as a management exercise, you say, let me, sometimes guys, there was a case where once I was doing some program for a bank, and the bank manager shared with me that the best idea for one of the campaign that they were working for came from a staff who was not, just executive level. And he said he was so glad that he included that executive level staff in that activity because somehow that person came up with a brilliant idea. So what I'm trying to say here is you can also use this as a tool that you could engage all your staff. So you may have a staff of 40, 50 people who, especially during this COVID period, there is a possibility they could be disorientated, like even wondering what's the future is going to look like. What about the segments that we're going to go for? Because one of the things I realized going online now, delivering programs online, we are able to go for global market. And I remember one of our classmates, Prabha, mentioned, he has got some inquiries coming from overseas. So you find that with a simple model, you're able to reach out and let everyone look at all the possibilities, right? So it's simple, it's holistic, and what I love about it is so visual, all right, and it's so logical because you're looking at the front end and the back end of the entire organization. And I also say it's flexible because you can use it whether you're a multinational company or whether you're a SME, or whether you're in manufacturing or service, it's 100% applicable, all right? And the yellow one is my favorite, because it starts with the customer. The whole model starts with the customer. So it brings in an outside-in perspective into your organization. That means it's not about inside out. You deciding your operation, you deciding, your what are the things you're going to do and so on. I'll give you an example. One of the work I was doing for with a client once, and they used to, certain departments close at 5 o'clock and then they go at. And when I walked in to do some consulting work, I said, what happens after 5 o'clock? I said, what happened when a customer comes in after 5? And they said, they have to go down. I said, yeah, if they have to go down, is there a notice on the table which says that, office hour is 9 to 5. If after 5, please proceed to this office in the lobby. All right. So sometimes you find that we are always looking at, maybe we're not looking enough from the customer's perspective, because by not having that notice, what will happen is the customer will be inconvenienced. The customer has to walk around, adik, dia tutup, where can I go, So they are going around asking A, asking B, asking C, all right, and asking for directions and so on, which you could have easily thought through if you were customer centric enough, putting the entire service journey, right, mapping. Some of you will know, we do blueprinting, service blueprinting. And during the process of service blueprinting, we look at everything from the customer's point of view, from the point they enter to the point they leave, and so on. Right. So what was beautiful thing about this model is that, and it's a powerful facilitation tool, as I mentioned, using your entire team focused on one simple one page. Even if the English is not so good, even if they don't know how to write so well, it's so visual. It's so visual. They just need keywords and so easy to learn. All right. So those are the key features of this model, which I hope with all these, I have managed to somehow get your buy-in right towards the use of this model, because as far as I'm concerned, in all my work, it has never failed me in working with the clients. All right. So if you're ready, guys, sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. It's because this is a bit of sharing learning session. It's a pure learning session. All right. Otherwise, normal, I would have a lot of games, but sorry, next time. Yeah. All right. So talking about the 9 blocks, I would like to run through with you very quickly. And the best way to do that, right, is to have a look at the video. This video talks about the first 2 important steps of looking at your customer and your value proposition. Enjoy. Can you all see the screen?
Shanti, is there audio? The sharing is
Yes,
coming
there is
through.
audio, so I'm going to try playing it back again.
We still can't hear.
Shanti, if I may, when you go into the share screen, right at the bottom, there is a button that I think is for sharing audio from computer. You may want to click that.
Sorry. Somebody was saying something?
Yep, that's me, Shanti.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. I think when you share screen, right at the bottom of share screen, there is a audio. I think there's a button that says share audio from
Sorry, Ashok,
computers.
give me a second. Yeah, sorry, Ashok.
Yep.
Now I can hear you. Yep.
When you share
You're
screen,
seeing?
when you
Sure.
press the share, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All right. If I'm sorry, guys, if the audio is not, what we will do is, if you could just watch, it's also quite informative. I'm going to play back again, yeah?
Shanti,
Yep.
can you hear us?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you got to watch
Yes.
the video without sound.
What you need
I
to
don't
do
want
is
to mess around too many things.
when you go to share screen,
You should be able to capture the keywords there.
when you click share screen, on the left hand side there is a box which you need to tick which says share from start sound on computer. If you click it, then we can hear the sound also. Then you click on share screen on the left hand side, on the left bottom corner.
We'll go through, but just watch the video, guys. I'm sorry if you can't hear it. All right. Extremely sorry. I didn't want to mess around anything, but can I come back to my slides here? Can you all see it? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Ms. Shanti.
Yes,
All right. Thanks, guys. Okay, so as mentioning that what I want to do now is quickly run through with you the 9 building blocks. And what I would do is just run through, I mentioned, because it's quite difficult to go in depth each of it. But feel free to reach out to me after this session, you know, if you ever want more explanation. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of reading materials out there, all right, with especially books, you know, which are hundreds of pages and so on, that will give you a lot of examples, right? So as the 9 blocks, so the first block starts with the customer segment. And here, a bit of going back to fundamentals of marketing, as you can see, it's about deciding who you're going to go for. Are you going to go for the mass market? Are you going to go for the niche market? Are you going to go for segmented market of, you know, the young and the middle age and the older ones? Like, you know, you have diapers today, right? It started with going for the children, but eventually you find that they started come out with diapers for senior citizens and older people and so on, right? So that's considered segmented market. Diversified market, when you're talking about totally different markets, right? Sometimes it could be B2B and B2C, all right? And finally, multi-sided market. What do you mean by multi-sided market is where you're talking about 2 markets that coexist. For example, when you talk about Facebook, yeah, you find that for them to make money, all right, they need to work with people who can come out with advertisements and use it as for marketing purposes. At the same time, they need the consumers, the people, the public to use it, all right, as a communication tool, as a social media tool, to be engaged with each other, with the family members and so on. So you find that what Google does is try to look at, hey, you know, what can I do for these people? I remember the whole of last week, I had so many, what do you call, messages from Facebook saying, you have memories with this person, you have memories with that person. At the same time, you find that they are also, you know, updating all the service features. I heard that, you know, in time to come, we will be able to do e-commerce application using Facebook, because that's where they're going, competing with Shopee and so on. All right, so they coexist. So that's multi-sided. So so that is basically the segments that you have to look at. But what I'm more interested is looking at the need to deep dive, you know, because when you talk about customer, it's such a big word. So if you really want to be able to come out with the right value proposition, as you can see in that slide, right, you need to look into what is it that the customer is doing. Now, I'm a bit I was a bit baffled, when Alexander used this word customer jobs, because typically coming from marketing background, we will say customer needs, right? What does the customer need? What does the customer need? But he actually uses the word customer jobs. I think it's so that we, from in the lens that we are using, we are looking at what is it that is being performed by the customer. All right, what are they doing? All right, in terms of you know taking children to school. In that process of taking children to school, what are their pains? What are their gains? All right, and they go after taking the kids to school, they go to work. So and they go to work, what are they required to do? And when you look at every aspect of the job that the customer need to do, or wanting another word, a simpler word would be the role that they have to perform, we are able to then look at where possibly there would be a need for a product or a solutions that we could come up with based on their pains. All right, based on, or that's why it's very, very important to always talk to customers. Every time you talk to a customer and welcome their complaints, for me, it's good news. Because every single complaint that you get from your customer, it's about identifying the pain that they're going through. And for me, automatically, it means that pain can become an opportunity to improve our value proposition. What is it that we're going to take to them and say, all right, we heard you. We can feel what you're going through, and this is what we have decided to do for you, and so on. All right. So the video just now was basically giving you a little bit of examples on explanation on this. I'm sorry about that. The volume wasn't there. All right. So so a bit of, by the way, before I forget, for all of you who registered using the Google form, I would be sending you the slides. All right. And if you still have not registered through that and you would like to receive, please quickly do that. Or send me your email address and I will be able to send you over the slides. All right, but bearing in mind, this is all from secondary sources and copyrighted sources, so just for your own use. Right. So, so when you talk about customer jobs, it's interesting. I'm just going to run through the one on the left, where we're looking at the functional roles that they play, the social roles that they play, or jobs that they do, the emotional jobs. When you may ask me, Shanti, what is emotional jobs? It simply means that sometimes you find at the workplace, as a leader, we also have emotional job. We are responsible for the emotional well-being of our people. So similarly, you find that, as a marketer, as a customer, sorry, as a business owner, you're looking at, right, putting your customer right under microscope. You have to look at, in terms of social, what is it that they need to do? In terms of emotion, what is it need to do? And then you're looking at, hey, all right, what is it that I can offer? Now, this is where, again, for me, things like Pinterest, it gives you ideas and ideas and ideas on how you can recycle your CDs and your bottles and so on. For me, personally, it's an emotional job, because when I get stressed out with job, I need something that distresses me, and going and seeing how these things are made out of recycled items, it's a mover for me. All right, so that particular what do you call, resource that's available to me, it's wonderful. All right, so, and we're looking at supporting jobs, and we're looking at in what context are they performing this job, in the context of being a single, or being married, or being, uh, a woman leader, in what context, and you're looking at how important, because the importance will tell you the desirability. The more the customer feels that this is important to me, the desire is going to be strong, and your viability of producing the product or service is good. All right. So look at the customer's job. I'm going to run through this very fast. Look at their pain points. All right, where they're feeling the pain. Is it a functional pain, which means they can't perform, uh, in that product or services that they are, sorry, the role that they are performing, and so on. Right, where is their pain, in terms of emotional pain or social pain, and so on. Right, and looking at the gains. Right, gains also we are looking at how important, that gain is to them, and so on. Now, sounds a little bit technical, but trust me, if you deep dive a little bit more inside, you would see that it makes common sense. All right, it's really makes sense. All right, so the second one is value proposition. And when you talk about value proposition, based on the pain points just now, based on the gain point, I mean the gains that the customers want, or the jobs that they are performing, we have to take that information and bring that into developing the value proposition that we are looking for, or we want to offer to the customers. All right. So I've put here some examples of possible. All right. You can look at, improving performance, improving user friendliness. If you look at it like handphone companies, right, they keep on developing better and better and better version. And you all would agree with me that one of it is to create more gains with better phone camera features. You all agree it fulfills a social job for the person, because people love taking taking photos and putting it into Instagram. They love, keeping their friends connected with what they're doing. So the more the phone is increasing the performance and the features and able to, come out with better design, user friendly and so on, the more the value is being created based on understanding what the customer, all right, probably is looking for, all right, in the various jobs that they are performing. So, all right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so basically putting this all together, all right, you will find that can I just share with you the quote by Alexander here. He says, "Your customer are the judge, the jury, the executioner of your value proposition. It will be merciless if you don't fit." All right. So very important, understand the customer and fit it in. And once you have fit it in, all right, come up with it. Look at how are you going to build the relationship with your customers. All right. That's the third one. So in this, you're looking at, are you looking for long-term or short-term? Your relationship with your customer, I love the second one. Very important for you to ask yourself, is our relationship with the customer transactional? They contact us, they ask us for something, we provide them with the solution, and then we say thank you. All right, like even if you're looking at coaching services, and so somebody calls you up and say, hey, I have a need for my staff, who have earmarked for this. All right, and then you're looking at, where does the relationship go after that? So you got to look at with your clients. All right, are you going to look at long-term or short-term? Is it going to be personalized or automated, or are we going to focus on relationship that is designed towards acquisition? As you all know, existing customers are your best, I would say, source of influence. All right, they can easily give you more. One happy customer can give you so many more new customers. So are we looking at, our relationship focused on acquisition or retention? And I love the last one, guys, the tone. All right. And when you say tone, in building your relationship, are you like, dear XYZ, and very formal? I'm not saying it's wrong. Nothing is wrong here, but I think it's good to use this opportunity to relook at what kind of tone, because if you're dealing with the younger generation, what tone works well in building a relationship with them? If you're dealing with older people, or maybe people who are with senior position, what kind of tone in communication? Because you cannot be using regards, RGDS, short forms, right, when you are writing email, because that can be a put off for them. So everything you do, even the way you write your email, the way you write your EDMs for your communication, I think should take into consideration how is it that, with what tone do you want to build relationship with the clients and so on. All right. And then in terms of channel, you're looking at what channel you can use in order to engage your customer. All right. And what would be best based on the product or service that you're using, and looking at where the revenue stream is going to come. All right. Because this is really, really important. All right. If you look at, in the case of Netflix, right, they were selling videos, they were selling, CDs, then they went into subscription mode. So the revenue came from subscription, right, monthly subscription, rather than people renting a video one time off and then returning and so on. That's what the competitors were doing, and they decided, nope, I'm not going to go down that lane of that value proposition. I'm going to go on subscription. You can rent as many as you want. You can use in that month. If you're paying me 30 ringgit, you can, $30, right? You can watch as many as you want. It's up to you and so on. Right, so we need to look at the revenue stream, and that is to look at the first part. And then, as I mentioned, you have to look at the activities part, right? Which are the activities which are important? And I like the second one. Are we sacrificing any of the activities in order to prioritize? So one of the good thing about the business model is it sort of encourages you to look at your activities and start outsourcing. If payrolls is an activity that is not important, outsource it. If developing brochures, flyers, right, is an activity, but in terms of commercials, in terms of the cost is high. So you're looking at a lot of activities must be re-looked at, and looking at, do we move it in, or do we move it out, do we keep or go, and so on. All right, and then we're looking at our partnerships. All right, how do we form partnerships? Who are the people, especially one of the things I realized doing this course with all of you in the VLC class. All right, the beautiful thing is that the partnership that's being formed, and even the group that I went with to India, for the entrepreneurship program, we are still in touch, and there are a lot of collaboration, for among us and so on. So you find that networking is important, guys. My suggestion here is go back to your roadmap, your business model canvas. Look at who are the people you're networking with, who are the people you're building partnership with, right? Whether it's formal, informal, right? Because this carries a lot of weightage in terms of creating better value, right, for the services that you're offering. So, because you have to look at where your gaps are. If you're not good at content, find who could you work with for content. If you're not good at digital marketing, find who. Because everybody wants to make money. So you just have to go and have a conversation with them and look at how best this will be a win-win situation. How can the partnership be a mutually beneficial partnership? All right, and then looking at all the resources that's needed in terms of your manpower, your machines. All right, and a lot of companies are doing that. You'll agree, you all are doing away with some of, let's say if you had 10 fax, 10 printers, maybe you're reviewing a contract and look at, no, we don't need 10 printers now. All right, we only need 2 to sustain our business. So every single resource, the 5 M's, the manpower, the machine, the materials, all right, even including the management in terms of the people, all right, and the money, everything needs to go under microscope and to be relooked at in terms of whether they are still relevant, all right, for the value proposition that we're looking at, for the new customer that we're dealing with, for the new business horizon that we're looking at, and so on, all right, and put all this together into our course. I love I don't know about you, but I love that there's a quote that says, costs are like fingernails. You have to cut them constantly. I think many of you are in business, right? You would agree with me. And this is where, again, everything in the business model canvas calls for it to come under microscope. Put it under study and looking at where, and I know many of you are doing it, all right? I'm not going to say, oh, I'm telling you something, nope, you're doing it. But if you're doing it, well, this is time to pat your shoulder and say, right, I've got my business model reviewed already. And what I hope you all will do now is put it in one page and use it as a business discussion brainstorming tool with your colleagues and your team and so on. All right. So that is all putting it together. So my last closing, mindful of my time also, all right, is that can you please put in your chat box, after all that you have listened for the last 15 minutes plus, all right, what do you see as being some of the possible application of BMC, of the business model canvas? Very quickly, and we can bring this to a close. You can immediately type in, guys, so that I can see. Okay. All right. So coming to an end, thank you very much for those who quickly put in some pointers there. So my final wrap up here would say that with a quick look at the business model canvas, what are the possible applications is that, number one, it can be useful for you to strategize your game plan, your blueprint for in looking at your customer, how am I going to build a relationship, what channel I'm going to use, right, and how I'm going to take my value proposition and review my value proposition and so on. I like the green one. Number 2 is alignment, where, as I say, if you keep engaging your team, give them this one-pager thing, send it out to them, give them 1-2 days, all right, it'd be a beautiful alignment tool where everybody will start speaking the same business language of customer value proposition, right, customer pain points and so on. It can be a dashboard where you can put it up and put in red where you find that perhaps the channel you're using, especially if you look at the next point, when you compare that with your competitors, you'll be able to look at where am I, in this 9 elements, right, as compared to my competitor. All right, and finally, the most interesting part, it is a beautiful, simple framework for innovation and ideation. And that's why a lot of companies that are involved in design thinking applications and so on, eventually you find that they would somehow look into the application of it towards the customer's value proposition. All right, so I'm going to end by saying or showing you, because I'm not going to go through this, but just to flash a quick slide to show that Uber, they used the business model canvas and came up with a success story. As you all know, they re-looked at the value proposition based on what the competitors were not doing. The taxis were not doing certain things, and they said, nope, that's what I'm going to do something better for you. All right. Similarly, I mentioned Airbnb. All right. What they found out were hotels were charging an arm and a leg, and sometimes people would just want somewhere clean and fast. All right. And they changed the entire value proposition. All right. The whole business game of what do you call tourism, travel, hospitality industry was totally disrupted by them. And Netflix, as you all know, where they started in '99 and where they went, right, in 2015, right, and beyond. It was basically, they re-looked at their channel, they re-looked at their value creation, they looked at the activities and focused on, as you all know, Netflix, a lot of their own movie, something that no other company, especially somebody who started with rental, right, subscription-based movies has done and so on, all right? So as a wrap up, basically, I would like to just look at whether or not we have achieved these 3 objectives, which we started with, all right? I was hoping that as of now, 10 o'clock, you have gained a better knowledge of business model canvas, identify the 9 building blocks of BMC, and learn how to apply, at least how to apply. All right, if you say that, if you feel that we have achieved the objective, please give a yes in the chat. All right, I would love to hear that. If you say, no, I need more information, please leave your contact number or your email. I would see how I could help you. But my suggestion is look it up. We have to be self-directed nowadays in whatever that we want to learn. All right, sometimes we get triggers and cues from people like us who are sharing this 1-hour sessions with you. All right, so guys, thank you very, very much. And I hope this has been a good session. And most importantly, I need your favor to give your feedback. The link is here for the feedback, because this is, as some of you know, my classmates are here. This is part of my assessment for a program that I'm doing now. Right, and for my friends, I've got friends from Sagamat, I've got friends from people who went for programs together. Thank you so much for your support, and I really look forward to your feedback, whether this way or through WhatsApp, where improvement. I know the technology part, I'm still happy with a little bit that I'm improved on, but I will definitely improve on all the integration of the tools and so on. And finally, just to let you know, there will be another 4 or 5 sessions today. All right. Right now, I think there's already another session started, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. And please, if you enjoy these 1-hour sessions and you have time to spare this Saturday, all right, go into this link and you will be able to register immediately for some of the programs being done by my colleagues. Thank you very much, and it's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you.